Live. Hello, all of my my friends, my people who watch VODs. Welcome to another live stream. I always get mad nervous before I do these. I always feel like I'm not gonna make any money. It makes me scared because if I don't make any money, it makes me feel like it was all for vanity. Like I'm just so desperate for attention that I need to be broadcasting every single thing I do at all times. But that's not really true. Not anymore anyway. Now I'm doing it for the money. So anyway, I'm here to answer live chat and wander the woods near my house. My parents' house. I don't have a house. I wouldn't be live streaming all day for super chats. Well, I probably would. To keep my house, if that was how I afforded my house. We'll find out. We'll find out how I can afford a house in this life one day. Or I'll die broke. One or the other. I don't know how many people can afford a house in this modern economy in the first place. Well, nobody's saying anything in chat yet, so I'll just be wandering about, staring at the woods, waiting for someone to show up. If you're watching the VOD, you know, just hang in there with me. Let the mood settle in. Lucas Ferreira says getting a job. There's not a lot of jobs that can afford you a house in the United States. I don't know what kind of job you're talking about. I've had a job. I actually was making quite a bit of money at the job I was doing last year, but not afford a house type of money, at least not in my mind. I mean, I know a lot of people are just willing to take on unimaginable debt or, you know, like, I think a lot of people feel entitled to a certain living circumstance and they kind of build their life around that, whether they actually can afford it or not, and then they pay for the consequences of that later in life. I would even say that I've done that. I would definitely say I've lived a little bit above my station for the last 6 or 7 years, you know, spent a little bit more money than I was really making. But I spent a lot of that on rent in places I shouldn't have been living at a time before I really understood what it means to be paying a lot for rent. When I lived in Boston, I was paying $2,300 a month for rent. And I don't think a lot of people my age have ever even attempted that, particularly by themselves on one person's income. So you can imagine how quickly that chewed through what I was making at the time and what I had before then. Nice hat, thank you. I just found this in the shed. I don't know whose it belonged to originally. Hi, I love you, says art makes us better. I agree with your username. Otherwise, I couldn't justify my existence. Bash the Fox said, motorhome with bike scooter for in tow in town driving. It's not a terrible idea, but I'm kind of afraid of those, you know, little mopeds and scooters, and they're not good everywhere. Like, I would rather, I mean, maybe like a smart car or something, you know, just like, because right now we drive around in a Prius V, which is like a station wagon sized Prius. It's substantially larger than a regular Prius. But like, it would be like kind of a bit to tow around, you know, like if you, especially if you're doing like in an RV, you'd be towing like a whole ass fucking car along with a big ass truck you're already driving. But if it was like a small town car, maybe it wouldn't be. Hello, squirrel. You see this squirrel? I can't tell how to get the squirrel in camera with me. He went up this tree. Oh, he just jumped off. Animals they really like to choose right when you're about to pass as their moment to cross. It's very strange, whether it's cars or people. It's always strange to me that instead of waiting till right after you pass to cross, they'll, or like way before you're close, they always feel like, oh shit, I gotta take my moment, you know, like, oh, they're about to pass, there's a lizard that just did the same thing, like, oh, I better scurry away. And maybe they just don't notice how close I am until I get that close. I don't know. People coming into the park. I'm kind of walking on a path that goes next to a road into a park. There's cars coming in behind me. People chilling at the benches on their computers. It's impossible to live out there without Section 8 roommates or like $70,000 a year. Yeah, that sounds about right. And to be fair, like Bird and I made almost close to that last year, but we were doing a traveling job. So like if we had been trying to pay for a place on top of, you know, everything that we were spending money on while traveling, we couldn't have afforded both. So, you know, instead of paying rent, we bought a nice tent, nice sleeping bags, nice coats, nice laptops, you know, everything you would need to live an on-the-road lifestyle. But none of that has stopped us from also wanting to have a place somewhere because the constant road life, you know, it's a little bit brutal, especially when you're doing like a nonsense job you don't really care about just for the money, you know, that takes up more of your time than the actual exploring. Trixie, how are you? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. Had a really great weekend. We went up to, well, you know what, I'll tell the story in a minute. I really have to go to the bathroom. So I'm just gonna leave the shot on this cool shot of this abandoned like shed thing for a moment and mute, and then I'm gonna go pee. All right. That was so convenient and easy thanks to me now having a new GorillaPod-esque tripod thing to carry around with me that I got at Walmart yesterday. That on brand ONN, they've improved their stuff a lot over the years. I'm always really happy when like the cheapest stuff gets better instead of worse, you know. And I've kind of walked out to the marsh here, but you can see I'm out at the marsh. I can't go any further that direction. Also, look at these weird like stone things out here. Weird stuff. Good luck peeing, said JT Cherry. I mean, I do kind of need some luck that nobody comes through on the, you know, nobody happens to walk through the place that I'm at. I only have so much view distance down the trails, you know, I can only predict but so far that I might be visible. But I try to read the atmosphere, you know, try to be sure. Anyway, that little, you know, that little deserted, little like fucked up pagoda or whatever it is that I was just, you know, I left the camera on for a second back there. I've seen people hang out in that, you know, a bunch of times. I smell barbecue. Somebody's actually using the barbecue here. That's cool. Yeah, like that little fucked up pagoda, you know, it's a little, probably draws a little bit too much attention for somebody to try to use it as like their own shelter. There are definitely people who live in this woods. I don't know if they live here all the time, but you know, there's at least one place. Look at this pretty flower thing. I like this. I'm trying to get closer. Oh, actually, let me just flip the camera around. Get that nice, pretty view of those nice flowers. Anyway, move into that shed, problem solved. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's a little too conspicuous. Your stuff is cool. It just says anime. Anime! Anime! Random bee appears on my feed. Hello. I'm out here in the woods, waiting for people to super chat me questions about anime or whatever, whatever people want to hear me talk about. You know, I'm down for anything. I don't give a shit. I just want the dough. I gotta say, it's a very beautiful day outside. I'm happy that this is the time, this is the place I chose to do my stream, because, you know, it took a long time for spring to really kick off in action here in Virginia. We had a lot of cold and rainy days. It also hadn't occurred to me that I could live stream in these woods. I've been through these woods a few times, you know, just to chill and walk around. But back at home, staying with my parents, I don't really have a good place to do live streaming or podcasting or any kind of long form recording. It's a very open plan house. My granddad, who's 90, you know, is kind of always in the middle of the house watching a big screen TV, so there's a lot of sound. You know, my dad works from home, my mom is at home, so pretty much the house is always occupied. There's not really a time where I can just record and not expect to be interrupted at all. So that's why I haven't been doing a lot of it, even though I think theoretically long form content and kind of hangout atmospheric stuff is what I do best, and what I can make the most money doing on top of it. It's just a question of, you know, having the availability. Passing the game. Oh. I hear planes. Planes, trains. Ooh. Hold on, let me turn the camera around to see what I hear. Very cool. Look. Have you thought about boogie pop lately, or just the general idea of boogie versus pop? I actually wrote a whole thing on my Substack about that recently. I believe it probably was a paid article, so you might have to be a Substack backer to read it, but it was called something like art pop versus boogie pop, maybe. So yeah, go check that out. I'm not going to give any more details, because if it is a paid article, I don't want to spoil it and make you feel like you already got the point of it. Have I ever been to Japan? Only on a layover. I was in Narita Airport for like 2 hours on a layover when I went to Manila. So not really. Which is funny, because a lot of my friends and relatives have been. My brother's been, my brother Victor, I mean, Vic and Hope. My cousin has been, a lot of my friends, Landon has been, so I'm like the last to make the pilgrimage. There's I saw the comment, nice hat. I had to read your name for a second, because their name is, please stop creating more sentient life. What a YouTube handle. But you know, I feel your passion, and I don't disagree with your overall point necessarily. I don't feel as powerfully as to say stop, but you know, I get where you're coming from. Is this a sombrero? I think this is just a sun hat. I'm not sure. You can see I'm mixing my metaphors here because I've got like a Luffy style hat and then I've also got a Naruto style shirt. So we're going all in on, you know, late 90s, early 2000s mega franchise anime nostalgia on this walk today. Ever think about taking your old anime blogs and turning them into videos, unless you've been doing that? I mean, I would say that a lot of my stuff is essentially rewrites of stuff that I didn't know how to say that eloquently before. And this has always been the case, you know, like, I think most of our understanding of reality, anybody, I mean, our, when I say our, I just mean literally any human, the way you understand reality is heavily couched in instinct, and it's not stuff that you find it easy to explain, because words are not like an instinctual thing. Like, the ability to speak well is a skill that has to be developed and honed. It's a skill I did not always have, and that I spent a lot of time on, you know, because I wanted to be heard. I wanted attention, and the only way I've learned how to get attention is by speaking well. So, you know, to me, that's like, it's like a biological tactic almost. And trying to remember exactly what I'm explaining. I hear voices ahead, how they're going a different direction. But yeah, so like, I think a lot of stuff that maybe I understood right from the start, I didn't know how to put into words very well. And over time, I've just gotten better and better at explaining it. So I kind of explain the same things over and over again, but like with new, better words. So, you know, I've been accused of repeating myself since I was a small child. I know I'm just doing it continually. I look like a Tekken 8 custom character. That's funny. I've been thinking about making some kind of video to explain some of my raps. Like, I know a lot of people who would enjoy what I'm saying in my raps are people who don't listen to rap and can't understand what I'm saying. Because I write a lot of nerdcore, and it's like, not a lot of rap fans get the references, but not a lot of people who get the references are rap fans. But I've got this Tekken verse that I'm very proud of. It's kind of a mix of a Tekken, Konosuba, Avatar reference. But it goes, Jinsei, say goodbye to Jinsei. Can't Kazama from Kazama Kisama. Leaving you no Aqua. Chakras blitz like Toph, Soft Boys. Charmin, Street Fighter Ultra. Told ya. Namco beef run deep like gutted to the hilt by Mitsurugi. Worst nightmare snared by Ivy. Climbing to the precipice where I look down smiling. No, go ahead, do it. I've been waiting to blow. Watched by the Watchmen. This one fan more. Send the NSA to my Patreon page. Y'all got enough plays. Now the time has come to pay. Ain't safe no mo. Not when this shit stays way too dope. Back to the smoke. Get back afloat. Ain't singing this shit like that little boat, bitch. Anyway, a lot of that is Tekken references, if you couldn't tell. So I thought about making a video to explain that, doing like the 80 vid notes, you know. There's a lot of fucking broken glass on this trail. I'm really concerned about that. But yeah, I don't know if a lot of people remember, like, some of the old 80V DVDs would have like these extensive notations of what all the references mean and stuff like that. Yeah, someone asked, do I still go to conventions for fun? And then Donna said she just went to C2E2. This is true, although I was technically there originally for business. It became a trip for fun. I guess you could say it was still for business in a sense, but you know, we went to C2E2 specifically because we were going to meet Ethan Van Sciver, whom Riley and Mint had already met and been friends with, and wanted to introduce me because I'm writing a comic for Mint Salad, and, you know, she's involved in that universe, so there's no reason to think that it wouldn't be a good idea for us to have met. Ironically enough, EVS was banned from the convention for supposed transphobia, I guess. Speaking personally as a trans woman who wanted to meet the guy, I could have put that to the test myself. I didn't need the fucking convention to do anything about it. I ended up hanging out around the Comicsgate people anyways, and I didn't catch any smoke. you know, hung out with Frog Tony and Riley and Mint and met all the fucking people who were doing shit at the con. But, you know, I basically wasn't that interested in actually going to it after we found out that EVS had been banned. And Riley went dressed as EVS, disguised as him as best he could. We were thinking about doing a bit where we would go up and like just keep insisting to people that he was EVS until we got banned from the con or like kicked out. But we didn't end up even spending enough time there to have run a bit like that. We kind of popped in. We checked out the dealer's room, which was crazy huge. C2E2 is a massive convention, and I didn't know that because it's not the biggest Chicago convention, but it is the one that's right in their downtown, and the convention center is fucking huge. You know, I wish that like a convention the size of Anime Expo had a convention center the size of C2E2's. But yeah, it was a pretty huge place, and we splurged some money on comics in the dealer's hall, and then pretty much went out to try to find food, then came back, and when we came back, we just went to like the party, like the after party where all the Comicsgate people were hanging out. So like we probably spent less than an hour and a half actually inside of C2E2 in the part where you need a like badge to go into, you know. But nonetheless, I don't get as much out of the conventional part of the conventions than I do out of the networking aspect, because to me a big part of it is like, well, this is where people who make money who are in my sphere gather. And so if I'm going to learn about how I can be making money in my sphere, or who I could be working with, or like, you know, who should I have a problem with, like I'm going to find all that stuff out when I go to these cons. And so it's always an interesting opportunity to like meet a bunch of new people, make connections, you know, like, and I've got plenty of people I would consider friends that I only met because they happened to be at a con that I was at, you know, having no idea that one another would be there. So I do like them for all those reasons, regardless of actually attending panels or anything like that. All right, I can tell I'm talking too much because no one's paying me to talk, and I'm talking anyways. So that's a huge problem. I gotta shut my mouth and focus on exploring the woods. I think I've ended up on a path I've never been on before, too. Oh, this is where the big meadow is. Alright, I've never really gone up here because the grass gets too deep. I'm gonna try. Got good jeans on. Okay, this just leads out to this field, but there's a way to get over there that doesn't require me to walk through tall grass. So let me go find it. This sucks. Watch out for wild Narutos, I will. This would be where some tuning exam shit would be happening, wouldn't it? Thoughts on the best guy ever situation? I mean, it obviously sucks. Sucks for him, man. Nobody would want to go through that. It's not even his first time either. But obviously the worst time. I'm definitely not going to answer a whole ass rant topic without getting paid about it. To answer the Jacob Geller question. I'd have to really think. I don't want to tax my brain for no reason. Explain butthole wheat. It's just kind of, I can't actually remember how that happened. Landon, I can't remember how the legend of butthole wheat happened. It just sounds like your butthole weed name, I assume. I don't remember where it came from. WATP voicemail. Oh yeah, that's right. It was like somebody, I guess, just insisting that they were mishearing his name as Butthole Wheat. I can't really remember. Wandering in the woods in Norfolk. It's a beautiful day. The woods are alive with the sound of birds. Hey, that's more like it. Evolved with the $5 to ask the question. Opinions on Jacob Geller. Jacob Geller, I believe, is that dude with the beard who makes video essays about video games and films and stuff like that. He's definitely not on my like I will watch every single video this person makes list, but I know he's made some good stuff, none of which is like entering my mind at this moment. He's a little more on the like dramatic presentation side. There's a lot of people who like YouTubers in the video essay category who they put a lot of like sensitivity into their content that is cringe in a good way. I'm glad they do it, but it's a different kind of cringe than my kind of cringe, which I guess is more like projecting insecurity or like hyper security. You know, it's like I don't know, my type of content is always either like hyper confident or hyper experimental, and stuff that kind of sits in the middle, it can be difficult for me to figure out. Like, I don't know, like there's elements I appreciate and elements I'm like, all right, whatever, you know. I kind of wish I was more concentrated like that, actually, like, because I think Jacob Geller has a very consistent tone to his videos, and that is something that I lack with mine. My content is like, I think you could watch a few videos back to back, feel like they were made by totally different people, and then a few more videos later, you'll see how all those were actually more similar than you thought, or how they could have all come from the same perspective. But like, I also think you'll get a very different amount of understanding of me depending on if you're watching like a freeform vlog or like something where I'm talking about myself versus like my opinion on an anime or something, which might feel very out of nowhere. So with Jacob Geller, I appreciate that, like, even if the tone of his videos is maybe a little bit more like emotional and self-serious than I usually like, it is consistent, and so you know exactly what you're gonna get, and you can kind of put yourself in the headspace of like, oh, I'm gonna watch a Jacob Geller video. It's gonna be like this, you know. If it sounds like I'm really approaching this question more on the technical side as like a YouTuber, it's because that's how I tend to watch YouTube videos. Is I'm usually not as interested in like what they're talking about as how they're talking about it or what they have to say about it. So for instance, with video games, I don't play a lot of them. I never really have. Like, I will in bursts. Every once in a while I get into like a video game headspace and I'll just play nothing but video games for like a month. But like, I do it the same way as I do with anime, where like I'll keep dropping stuff, you know, picking up stuff, dropping it, picking up stuff, dropping it, until I finally land on a game I like, play through it, and then I kind of feel exhausted with video games after that. But I'll watch people talk about video games all day long because there's so much interesting analytical content about it. Kind of the same way with film. I don't really watch a lot of live action movies. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Like, I'm more interested in analytical content about media often than I am in the source media. And I think a part of that is that, like, consuming the media will make you feel something, but I'm not always as interested in feeling it myself as I am in just understanding the feeling. And if somebody else can have the feelings and then explain them, sometimes it feels like that's you know, almost easier than trying to parse the feeling that you experience for yourself. And obviously, like, you should take it for granted that the feeling you're going to get is probably going to be at least somewhat different than the one that that person had. But that also doesn't mean that my opinion, like my feelings, would be more interesting than that person's, because for instance, if someone's talking about an open world video game, I kind of don't care about the genre at all. Outside of like the Souls games and Elden Ring, I've never played an open world game I really cared about. I guess you could count some MMOs, but like, it's just, wow, I knocked my head off. It's just not a genre I'm super interested in to play. And so if I played like Red Dead Redemption or something, like my review would be, wow, I hate the controls, you know? Whereas someone else who actually doesn't care about the controls and gets into all the depth of the game and can explain that, like, is going to give me way more out of the game's existence than I would have gotten by trying to struggle through playing it and just hating it for, you know, reasons that are entirely born out of my personal take on video games. I feel like I've talked about myself more than Jacob Geller, but I really do struggle to remember any specific thing that he's talked about. Like, he's very much in the category of YouTubers I watch because they talk about shit that I will never watch or play. Like, you know, he plays like artsy video games that I think look gay and boring, you know, or watches like regular movies that I just never even feel the drive or compulsion to check out. I only really feel like I need to see something when it's so fucking weird I can't explain it at all. Alright, that's enough about Jacob Geller. Thanks for the super chat. How am I doing, Yig? Hope you're doing alright as of late. Been a bit since I seen your content. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for stopping in to check things out. I'm doing great. We just, you know, my partner Bird and I, we got back from C2E2 the other day, which was we're living in Eastern Virginia, coastal Virginia, so quite a drive out to Chicago. But we camped in Shenandoah National Park. We camped in New River Gorge National Park in West Virginia, which is the newest national park. Passed through Ohio, we camped at the Indiana Dunes National Park, which is on Lake Michigan. Saw C2E2. Went back home we camped at Ohio. Blew 2 tires on the trip, although one of them was able to be repaired. The other one had to be replaced. And then we made it home. And Bird went to work immediately the next morning. And I went to work immediately the next afternoon doing my latest video. If anybody here, you know, if you're a backer on Patreon or backed by our Substack and you haven't noticed yet, I put out a new video last night called Unrecommendable Anime That Rule. It's about a bunch of movies and shows that I gave a really high score to, that have very low user scores on my anime list, and whom I cannot imagine who I would recommend them to. It's just, you know, I know the kinds of people when I meet them, but I would not know them until I met them, you know, that kind of thing. So it's like an anti-recommendation video almost. It's recommendations for people who like things that other people hate. And that's the latest thing up on my Patreon Substack, backed by. Kind of a quick list video because we were on vacation and I didn't want to try to do a really complicated video, which my next one's going to be. It's going to be Ava versus Jujutsu Kaisen storytelling spirals. If that sounds like you can't even conceive of what it will be, it's because you can't. But it's okay, because it'll all make sense in the end. Maybe. If I can figure out how to edit it. What was the video called? Unrecommendable Anime, in parentheses, That Rule. But it's not on YouTube yet. It's only available to my backers. It'll be on YouTube in 1 week? No, it'll be on YouTube in 1 week. Yeah, it'll be on YouTube a week after posted. That's how I've been doing stuff. On the We Watch Anime channel, which if any of you are not subscribed to, you should be, because that's where I actually do old school anime analysis content. And also podcasts about manga. Manga Mondays is, you know, I show manga on video, so it's not purely a podcast, but it is. The latest episode was a 90-minute free rent review, so that one definitely qualifies. ASE presents with $5 and a picture of a wrench. Nice wrench. Why won't it let me like or I can't like or heart that comment for some reason. I don't know why. That's strange. I guess when you send just a wrench, I can't interact with it. But thanks for the chill bucks, my homie over there at ASE Presents. You can see Bird and I at various points in the Saturday live stream that Mint Salad did. It's got 100,000 views. Check out this cool bridge. Look at that. I've never actually crossed this bridge, so I'm gonna go check it out. Let's go check out this bridge. Arakawa under the bridge, X bridge. Every single time I see a bridge, I think Arakawa under the bridge, X bridge. Oftentimes I say it out loud, regardless of whether anyone knows what I'm talking about. How many of you have seen Arakawa under the bridge, X bridge? Please comment in the chat if you have seen Arakawa under the bridge, X bridge. Not the first season, the second season. Please, I fucking beg you, just say the phrase, I've seen Arakawa under the bridge, X bridge. So I know I'm not talking total crazy. Yes, it's a great show. It's a throwback. I know. It's one of those shows that's easy to forget, but also impossible to forget. Like, you'll hear the name, and then in your mind, you see a kappa and a star-faced man, and you think about the church under the bridge, and you think about that fucking, let me turn my camera back around. You think about that God tier OP for both seasons. You think about that God tier voice cast, and you start thinking like, did I underrate this shit? Like, was this actually a classic? Did I just kind of take it for granted that it was just pretty good? But I don't know, because that would require rewatching it, and we all know that's fucking out of the question. One day I'll rewatch Arakawa Under the Bridge and X Bridge. Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge. I'm just gonna keep saying that till the next super chat comes in. Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge. Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge. Nobody's gonna want to watch the show ever again after I sing this song for the next 10 minutes. Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge. I'm kidding, I'm not gonna do that. That's too much Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge. I wouldn't want to ruin Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge for myself, especially not as a thing to say out loud. Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge, 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 Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge. How many times can I say it fast? Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge, Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge, Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge. Plane. Alright, I gotta find another entrance back into these woods. There's like 5 or 6 ways to get into the woods here, into this particular woods. And I gotta get myself back in the woods. But I've lost the paths. Wait, this looks like a path back into the woods. Here we go. Back in the woods. Where I belong. Ah! Ow, shit. I tripped on a vine. And it caught me right between the toenail and the toe. That sucks. That's the shittiest place to get caught by a vine. It's right between the toenail and the toe. Ugh. And my phone came out of its holster. And I muted myself for some reason. Okay, now I'm organized again. Alright. OCD loop broken by Jet Engine. Whoa, I don't remember this exit. Neat. Okay. Alright, what's happening in chat? What are you guys talking about? Arakawa Under the Bridge, X Bridge, I hope, on your plan to watch. Just homeless romance show, right? I mean, pretty much, but it's also got weird, kooky characters, like a kappa Do you think the anime industry's self-cessed has gotten worse compared to 5 or 10 years ago? That's too much of a rant topic, my friend. I love rewatching Amazing Anime. Just rewatched Imasoku no Iraboku. I've never actually watched that all the way. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. No, yeah, first 2, I think. And the second one ends in a really, really fucked up scene that I was not ready for at the time. Maybe it's episode 3, I don't remember. I just know that, you know, if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. I was like 17. I wasn't prepared to handle that shit yet. I was an innocent child. It's weird how bad titles make it hard to find the good stuff these days. Like I just read, This Village Sim NPC Could Only Be Human. It's very good, but what a horrible title. It is pretty bad. I mean, the translations often don't help. If they're not like somewhat catchy, you know. Like Konosuba, like Konosubarashi Sekai ni Shukufukuo is, I don't know if that's a memorable phrase in Japanese per se, but it has a ring to it. But more importantly, it's shortened to Konosuba. Everybody calls it Konosuba, it calls itself Konosuba, that's the marketing. And so the you know, American release very wisely called it Konosuba, God's blessing on this wonderful world. No one remembers the subtitle except for, you know, us. And otherwise, everybody remembers Konosuba because it's easy. But This Village Sim NPC Could Only Be Human? What is even the abbreviation? Like, I'm sure the Japanese title, the Japanese fans must refer to it as something short and pithy that is easier to remember. That t-shirt is cute, thank you. This came from Walmart like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if they still sell this type of thing, but oh, yes, I made it to the big open part. This segment, all right, tell me if this doesn't feel like Dark Souls, right? So I just came out from this little side path here out onto this road, and then the road comes out into this like field, and there's a bunch of access points back into the woods. Like I could go down there as a path, I could go over there, I could go over there, and then like right here you've got this weird mysterious like little tree thicket thing where there would obviously be some kind of like item, but then some kind of fucking weird monster would pop out of this bush that you can't fucking see. You know, there'd be dudes like rising out of the grass if you get close. Definitely would be a good battle arena for some solid Souls-like action. You know, nice little Bloodborne zone, if you will. Alright, I'll get back on camera now. It's like that weird light novel naming convention, but yeah, good point about the lost in translation effect. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's great even for the Japanese. I don't know if everybody loves the whole long title phenomenon. I think everybody just wants their book to be a shit post, but like it's gotten too far. It's like, you know, they're all trying to describe the premise of their book in the title, but the premise is not what makes the story interesting. It's the execution of the premise. So, you know, it ends up feeling like, you know, you're trying to rope people in with the idea that like, oh, I want to see this show because I want to know what it would be like to be reincarnated as a slime or whatever, you know, but like that could mean anything depending on how the author interprets it. Evolve with $5. Do you still stand by elitists should be on the vanguard, or have you changed thoughts on gatekeeping? I would say I probably still agree with that. I think, so gatekeeping is a difficult subject to me, particularly because I grew up being bullied. So this is something I've thought about a lot. Like, did bullying make me stronger or weaker? Was it something that was necessary for me? Or like, I really think that when I was a kid, I grew up with a sense of entitlement towards the idea that people would be able to explain things to me well. And I think that's just because my mom is a good speaker. Just through sheer Well, I shouldn't say that. My mom is a difficult communicator, but she is good at telling stories. She's good at going on like a long-winded explanation of what she saw, what happened to her, and that kind of thing. So I grew up with that being like my method of communication is I'm going to just keep talking until you get the whole point of what I'm trying to say. And not everyone has that communication style or is capable of it or even values it, and I didn't understand that growing up. So I always just looked at everybody else like they weren't telling me something, like everyone was deliberately, you know, like shutting me out and not sharing and understanding with me. And this would come through, for example, in stuff like when I was a kid, I did not understand the concept of matching clothes. Like, people would tell me my clothes don't match, and I didn't know what they meant by that. I'm like, well, how do clothes match? What is that definitionally? And usually, if I asked that and someone actually answered, they would say, the colors, you know, like the colors have to match. So to me, that then meant wear the same color of pants and shirt. So I went a long time, my idea of matching clothes was like, I'm wearing all blue, I'm wearing all red. Now eventually I took art classes, learned color theory, and figured out that matching clothes goes a lot deeper than that, you know? Now it's not that I don't instinctively see the appeal of clothes that match, it's that I didn't make assumptions about how that's supposed to be achieved. Like, I think, you know, the way that you grow socially is you see someone else doing something that you want to do, and then you try to achieve that. And I grew up feeling alienated by people for things that I liked about myself, and so I didn't try to copy what other people were doing. I didn't try to, you know, be more like them, and so I got bullied for those differences. And I do think that my will to power to keep standing up to that bullying and say like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna keep doing what I want to do anyways, you're not gonna stop me, you know, is a big part of my growth and what's allowed me to take on challenges and stuff. Because like growing up, I wasn't competitive, I wasn't looking for a challenge, I was looking for things to be easy, I was looking to be pampered, you know, I was looking to have things just explained to me, and I felt offended that people weren't doing all of that for me because, you know, I think when I was just a little kid, my mom had been just always talking to me, feeding me information, telling me stories, putting on shows like Sesame Street or Barney where I was learning stuff. And so I felt like I was in this constant state of like taking stuff in from the people around me. When I started school, it was like the opposite effect of, I felt like I didn't understand what anyone was saying, and, you know, except for the direct school stuff, I was pretty good at just like passing tests and that kind of thing. But like interacting with other people stumped me, and it's because I had too high of expectations of their ability to interact, and basically blaming people for their inability to do so. Now, as I grew up and I got on the internet was a heavily gate-kept place, particularly in the early 2000s. Like, I would say it still kind of is. I mean, you can't really get away with being stupid online and not being called out for it. If you keep making a public spectacle of yourself by saying dumb shit, someone's gonna come and say something. And like, how much the internet itself understands what is or isn't stupid has definitely evolved a lot over time. But I got on the internet when I was 11, so everything I was saying was stupid. And so, you know, I kind of went from being bullied by people offline who I felt like I had no connection to being bullied by people online who I felt like I was supposed to be just like them. I felt like I was supposed to be able to talk to these people because we have the same interests. So like, why are these people bullying me? And that's when I realized it's not about the interests, it's about the attitude. It's about the approach of constantly expecting people to explain things and be nice to me, even though I'm not really being nice and I don't really know shit to explain myself. I'm not doing the research, I'm not putting in the work, you know? And so being bullied about that stuff that actually mattered to me, helped me to grow a lot. And like, I'll like the people that I describe as my mentors, like they very much were like aggressive with the way that they handled it, because I was so aggressive myself. I was a angry kid who wanted to be listened to, who wanted attention. It felt like I deserved it. And people, it took like older people whose attention I wanted, who I liked their writing, I wanted to be more like them. It took those people saying, hey, here's why you suck. You don't spell check your posts. You don't do your research. You always act like you're better than everybody, even though you're fucking 17, you know? Like, you act like you know all this shit about anime, even though there's people who know way more than you. You just need to humble yourself, you know? And so, like, that kind of bullying was effective, and it still felt, I guess hazing would be a better word for how it felt, but hazing is just kind of bullying you sign up for, in a way, you know? I think bullying is overall, it is societal hazing. It is an attempt to make people correct their behavior, to be more comfortable and with them, you know? And there's a compromise that has to be reached, where I think if you're a weak-spirited person and people bully you, they will make you give up on yourself and make you potentially miserable because you feel like you can't live up to your own expectations. Whereas, you know, if you push back and you conquer that, either what you're doing is going to get you killed, or people are eventually going to understand it a little bit better and let you keep doing it, you know? Like, you're either going to reach a compromise, or you're going to become such a pain in the ass that, like, you are removed from your situation. But, like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that people who have the strength of will to succeed cannot simply be bullied out of something. I think that if the hazing works, if you get culled by that experience, there's not really a chance you were going to make it into the higher echelons of it, and that's the main reason it's done. It's done to get rid of people who, you know, who they want it, but they don't deserve it, in a sense. And obviously when it comes to fandom, this is like very pretentious to talk about, like if we're talking about gatekeeping anime fans or whatever. But the reason that this subject comes up is because of the conversation. It's not about gatekeeping your ability to like something. That's impossible. It's about gatekeeping your ability to talk about something from a place of authority, and to not acknowledge the authority of people whose understanding is lacking, you know? And I do think that is inherently elitist and pretentious, very collegiate, very ivory tower. But if people didn't lock themselves up in that ivory tower to have the progressive conversations that they're trying to have, the conversations would never progress. You know, like if you had to involve every single person in every single conversation, you're just not going to have a meaningful conversation. Conversation has to be kind of locked off. You know, it's why I don't mind having a smaller audience, because when you start getting people who don't understand you, who, you know, are engaging with your content, they start to blur the point. They start to deviate. Now, granted, you can seize that situation and bully those people out of your, you know, fan base. Like if you have a strong base who kind of pushes back against that kind of invasionary force, then, you know, that can work out. But like, I do think there's an aspect of like necessity to protect yourself from being too accessible, because you got to think about who's trying to get access. You know, if you're the most accessible person in the world, it means the worst people in the world are going to try to gain access to you. So, you know, only so much access is really a good idea. All right, that's probably enough of that rant. Justice with 250 says, university programs always have filter classes. Yeah, for sure. And just like, well, so the fucked up part about like talking politics, for instance, like in order to be effective in the realm of politics requires a preposterous amount of money, because you have to have the money to have the reach. There's just not the means are not in place for someone without money to have the reach of someone with a ton of money in America. And like the internet gives like a false illusion of the ability to grow your message grassroots or whatever, but it's it's so much easier for people with money to hold your message down and to, eliminate you. So the only way to really have an effect in politics is to go through the system, go through all of the, all of the rigmarole of the fraternities and the fucking, building trust with bad people that have that hold the reins of your opportunities, And so it kind of, like, the filter to being in politics is being a bad person. Like, you have to be someone who's willing to have gone through all this shit, to have kept these secrets, to have indebted yourself to bad people, And so it's like, I think it's really goofy when people act like you can have a personal effect on the broad spectrum of politics without becoming a monster, All right, I got another new super chat from Anathema Vedesu, $5. How does one describe an anime in a way that makes it sound good? I was trying to explain Utena to my friends at a bar the other night and couldn't. That's really audience dependent because it depends on what those people think is good. And like, recommendation is an underrated art. It's more difficult than I think most of us give it credit for. Speaking personally, like, I've given out lots of recommendations over time, and it's difficult to make someone make the leap from interested into spending time, especially if you're not spending time with them. The best way, always, is just throw the thing on. Like, if you've got the person at your disposal, if you can throw the thing on, just throw it on. Let it make the impression itself. That's always going to be your best strat, if you think the person's going to like the thing. If you think they're going to like it, but you don't have that opportunity, explain to them why they would like it specifically. So, with Utena, there's a lot of different angles you could come at that from. A lot of trans people, you could literally just say, like, it's the most trans anime that's ever existed. That's probably enough to get them in the door. Like, it's all about gender themes, it's all about society and its function, or it's about power, it's about abuse of power. Like, whatever you think that's going to resonate with that person as a message that the show has, talk about that. Or if you think they're just into stylistic stuff, like, oh, it's like the trippiest looking show, or it's got the coolest storyboards, it's the artsiest director, or talk about the person who created it if they're into that kind of stuff, it's made by this guy who, like, dresses up as Sailor Mars, and dyes his hair. So there's a lot of angles you can come at pitching someone Utena, but, like, keep it simple. Don't try to explain the plot. The plot doesn't matter. The plot never matters. Anytime someone tries to use a plot description to sell you on a show, I mean, it can matter if, like, the premise is really striking. If it's like what's that Inuyashiki, where it's like an old man becomes a powered robot. Like, that's not really describing the plot. That's a premise that sounds cool. And you immediately imagine what the genre of that premise is just by hearing it, Whereas with Utena, like, if you try to describe the plot, there's just no hope. I mean, you don't even really understand the plot until the last fucking episode of Utena anyway. Like, it really is so unrevealing that to talk about it in any way other than, like, it's a thematically rich, symbolically deep comedy series. You could also just say it's one of the funniest fucking anime I've ever seen. Like, I do think Utena is severely underrated as just a raw comedy, which it is most of the time. So, that's another approach. But yeah, there's a lot of good things about it. Just gotta pick whatever that audience would be most receptive to. I'm gonna take another pee and mute myself again. First, I gotta position my camera somewhere interesting. Yeah. Everybody loves piss in the woods. I think the best way to sell someone on a show is to wrap them up in the meta-narrative surrounding it. Why is the show noteworthy? Who made it? And why was it influential? Same with music. Again, this does really depend on the audience, though, because some people don't care about that shit. Like, if you're trying to sell Bird on something, that would not work. Bird is very plot-focused. That's the biggest reason that I like doing anime podcasts with Bird is that, and same goes for Nate, I'll say as well. They're both people who are way more interested in what is happening and why, whereas I'm more interested in how it's happening. And so like what emotions I get out of it personally or what I can learn from it personally. So like for instance, you know, Bird loves Jujutsu Kaisen because it is so complicated with how all the powers work, why things are happening, and when, you know, when something crazy happens, thinking back on all the reasons that it got to that point is what's interesting to him. Whereas I'm more like, you know, I just want to immerse myself in like a cool experience and get like the raw data into my brain of some shit that I ain't seen before. A lot of my like philosophy of content, like what I look for is just code. Like I think of it as collecting codes, basically. In a sense, like nature, the way things are made. You know, like we talk about genetic code, right? Like it's not that different from coding in video games. Anything you do, you are coding in a sense. You are, you know, using a set of letters to build a sentence of creation, metaphorically speaking. So like I'm always interested in like collecting as many codes as possible so I can reincorporate those into my own language. So like, you know, I kind of look at it like the more unique something is, the more likely it is to spark something in me. And granted, stuff can be so far from my understanding that it's hard for me to relate to. And some of that stuff is very common, like religion. I really struggle to relate to the feeling of religiousness, like the belief in a higher entity. I believe in the universe as one superorganism, you know? I kind of tend to think this, like everything has an effect on everything else. That concept seems kind of similar to God, but the idea of like worship, of feeling a need to like give respect to a higher power in exchange for your life, I don't know. I think the great magnet sometimes, I guess. So it's not like I don't understand it at all, but to me, when I think about like the most confusing images of humanity, I think of Mecca in Saudi Arabia and all the people circling Mecca in like a gigantic ant-high formation. That is one of the least relatable images to me. And that's a huge culture. But it's a huge culture I don't relate to. So, you know, that's I don't know why I'm even ranting about this. I forgot how I got onto that subject. Meta-narrative. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like something that would lead you into the middle of nowhere. All right, I'm gonna plunge myself back into the woods. I kind of was leaving the woods. Then I realized I was getting too far out of the woods, and this whole stream is supposed to be about being in the woods. So I really gotta get my ass back into those woods. So I'll wait for more super chats while I cross this field. Also, smelling the cookout those guys are having is making me hungry. I haven't really eaten yet today, so I had a beer to get myself in the mood to do a live stream. I was saying at the very start, for those of you who go back and watch the VOD later, that I get really nervous, particularly about the possibility of not making money when I do live streams. Like, I'm always like worried that it's vanity, because I don't want to do things just couched in vanity, even though sometimes it's good. Sometimes I know that my self-celebration will align with what everyone wants to see, and it will be a great time for everyone. and something I make a profit off of and feel like it was justified. But not always, you know. You can't always just be blowing smoke up your own ass and expect other people to think that, like, whatever you're doing is cool. But, you know, I've been getting two different requests from my audience that I think I understand. Let me know if I'm wrong. One is the request for more long-form content, and the other is the request for shorter content. Everyone seems to be dissatisfied with the particular length that we're at right now. They want either shorter or longer, or both. And I do think that's kind of where YouTube has trended to, and I get it, because I'm somebody who puts on videos to leave them on. To me, like, I want the video on in the background while I'm doing something else, because I don't like silence. And I used to pretty much only listen to music for much of my upbringing. I just always had music playing. But when I started making YouTube videos, like, in order for me to get better at speaking, I had to listen to other people who are good at speaking, do a lot of it. So I got used to, you know, just watching analysis videos, mostly for the sake of improving my own game at doing it. But, like, if you have to keep finding another good one, like, if I, say, watch a 7-minute video and then I have to go find another 7-minute video, it's like, how many good 7-minute videos are there, you know? Whereas if somebody amazing puts out a 4-hour long video, well, this is all I have to worry about all day, you know? But on the other hand, if it's just something short, and it's like, oh, cool, this person put out a thing, good to know they're still doing stuff, and then you move on to the next short, you know? Which is very much Bird's speed. He pretty much only watches shorts. He almost never watches longer form videos unless they're like update recaps about games he's gonna play, or like a Cold Ones episode, or Mr. Beast or something. Like, I think that's the only times he'll like sit down for like watch something like it's a TV episode or a movie, you know? But I lost connection for a second there. Must be. But yeah, so like Bird will marathon shows. I can't do that because I want to pay attention. I have a hard, like, I really struggle, honestly, to follow the plot in stuff, even when I am paying attention. So if I'm trying to watch in the background, I'm totally fucked, you know? Bird will, like, notice that he has not caught something and then scroll back and, like, make sure he understood it before he continues. But I will just be confused and lose interest, you know? So for me, it tends to be, like, that I mostly consume stuff that's in like the 20 minutes to hours long range, or music. Like, my short form ADHD decompression content is music, you know. Bird doesn't really sit around listening to music. He'll sit around and watch YouTube shorts. He'll listen to music in the car, but he's also more likely to listen to podcasts, and both of us listen to long form podcasts. So, you know, this is all the stuff that I understand about how content can be done and released right now. So, to my mind, my most successful stuff is all super long form. And I also make the most money doing long live streams. So it seems like, to me, long form content is more my bag. Not only because I watch more of it, but because it's where I've made my name, you know? And availability. Like, part of why I've gotten into this vertical streaming thing is that my friend Mint Salad has blown the fuck up on here. She is like really gone viral as a vertical streamer, and she, you know, did this with Riley, her partner, and the two of them were telling me that, like, it was based a lot in my theory of availability, that the more available you are, the more people will want to spend time with you because they don't feel like they're going to be abandoned. People don't want to feel like, oh, I'm going to get this beautiful moment with you and then I'm never going to see you again, or I don't know when I'm going to see you again. Like, they want that sense of regularity, that sense of, you know, planned presence in your life, which I totally get. And, you know, I've never been somebody who keeps up with stuff very well, but I've kept up with The Dick Show more or less consistently for over 8 years. So, like, you know, anytime I've fallen behind, I'll just catch up in a burst, and I've never just like skipped an episode, you know? So I understand the type of people who are like, I need to get every piece of content that this person's ever going to make available. And I think that that is the type of audience whether or not I like grew on it, it's definitely where I made all my money off of. Now, when it comes to making short content, the main problem I have with shorts is that it's a lot of effort for something that doesn't show it unless it's like immediate and showy in its presentation. Like most of the shorts that I pay attention to, you know, it's like they're showing you an animal you wouldn't see every day, or like they're doing something that would cost money to do, or like, you know, it's just immediately impressive because it's not something that enters your everyday life all the time. And that's really hard for me to replicate. Now, if it's just taking shorts that are cut from my videos, that's easy enough, and I'm sure that some of those can be successful. In fact, I got like 17,000 views on the short about Lupin the Third, comparing it. Hello. To thank you. Comparing it to Cat's Eye in that short that I clipped from a video. So I know that those can be successful, but it's very much a roll of the dice, and it's just a lot of extra editing time for something that's not satisfying creatively. You know, it's just retreading your own content. It's not really exciting. And it would be different if I had editors, if I was paying somebody to make shorts for me. I ain't got no damn money, so that ain't happening. Like, it's always, the saddest comments I get are when people are telling me what to do with my career, who are like, well, this is what the big channels are doing. And I'm like, yeah, but those big channels never fucked up their money for 2 years and lost all the people who they work with, you know? So, you know, it's a little bit easier to have a whole empire of churning content when you can hire people to work with you. Not blaming anybody for these problems. They're all my fault. But it is what it is. It's just like, you know, not everybody understands the situation when they try to give advice. It's very easy to get lost in these woods. You can never tell if you're going around in circles or going somewhere new. Hello. Head out this way. Here we go, another branch. Trying to get myself a little farther off into the weeds because there's people walking around inside the woods. It really does feel like I'm in the Zelda Lost Woods. Look at that little nook. It's a nice little spot. Nice little chill spot to check out chat. What are y'all talking about in here? I've been ranting for a fucking hot minute. I like vids that are less than an hour but longer than 10 minutes. Yeah, well, I think that's where most of my videos lately have fallen into. Most of the Manga Mondays and the new Rewatch Anime videos are around that length. Yeah, what content you get with you, length, theme, whatever, it's basically unpredictable, and that has its own appeal. That's true. But I think that the unpredictable element only works when it's constant. Like, you know, everybody has a different perspective on when they think I exactly fucked up my career, but in my opinion, it was moving to Boston, and in specific, the fact that when I was moving, I was working on very big projects, which was a mistake. I had it in my head that I had to make Horseshoe Finale. Like, I had to prove that I was, you know, that I had the potential to be, in my own eyes, the best YouTuber. And to be the best YouTuber had to have made the best YouTube video. And until I had topped Horseshoe Finale, I could not say I had made the best YouTube video. Now, it's silly to think I even have to do, you know, task myself with anything like this, but that's just the way I kind of was looking at it at the time. And so my goal with how they marketed was that it was going to be this whole series with all this effort and all this collaboration and all this stuff put into it to be like the height of my potential ideas, you know? And at the time, it felt like I was in the position to do that because I had kind of settled in where it's like I'd been making good money for a couple of years. I had my own place that wasn't very expensive. Um, it felt like I had the opportunity to start experimenting. But the problem is I just experimented with too much at the same time. Like experimenting with the video content and with my lifestyle by moving was too much. And there was exactly 1 month, the month where I moved, where I did not put out any content that month. And I took a huge dip on my Patreon. And there was a period where it recovered, where I had put out a video where I was basically just talking about the depressing aspects of being a YouTuber. And I made a large amount of money in a short time right after that. And then it kind of quieted back down again. And it was always just like me trying way too hard to change what I was doing instead of just doing what was already working, And I think I was blaming the way I did my content on my lifestyle, on like, well, I never leave the house. I'm always in my room, so I have the opportunity to film myself constantly, ranting about whatever, and so that's my content. And then when I started like, going outside and doing that more adventurous type stuff, it felt like, I guess, sorry, I passed a person who totally made me lose my train of thought because he came out of the woods like a Dark Souls enemy. I think I tried too hard to evolve my content because I thought that my content needed to push me into like a new lifestyle, that like I needed to collaborate with people more so that I'd have people around more, so I wouldn't be like lonely in my room doing shit by myself. But I'm not good at collaborations. I never could figure out like how to do it well. I never figured out how to make sense of my style being done with someone, So, I mean, the closest I would say was probably Plebe and the Weeb, and those videos are only good because of the editing. Like, the actual discussion in those videos, everything I contributed to them mostly is terrible, other than, like, the set, and the general concept. But, like, I just don't think that anything I've done collaboratively that isn't, like, live or just, like, having people around me incidentally has kind of, it's never had the same spark that the stuff I do by myself does. And it's a little bit sad because I like working with other people more than doing things alone a lot of the time. But I have the ability, so if I so desire, to work with other people and not release it or not make it the focal point of my content. Or I can do those experimental side projects and not try to sell that to the same people that I'm trying to sell, everything else I do to. Those are the kind of things, the lessons that I've learned over time, where it's like, I guess I thought that in order to give myself a voice, I had to, change the way I was doing things. And I changed it so drastically that it became unrelatable, And now I feel like I understand all the problems, but everyone's already gone. So it's kind of like, well, shit. How do I make it feel like the last 5 years didn't happen for the audience? Like, how do I feel like we just picked up on the page we left off, and I've just got a different name and gender, But anyway, that's enough of me talking job philosophy. I'm gonna go back into the forest because I can't really read chat very well out here in the glaring sun. Wandering the woods, wandering the woods. Let's see what people are saying here. Are YouTube Shorts profitable? They can be. But they also, draw attention to your content for people who might not have seen it. Pops up in a short and suddenly your voice is in someone's ears. A lot of a lot of YouTubers and people who are just getting into this business don't understand is the value of longevity and recognizability. That, like, your voice just becomes recognizable even if people can't tell where they've heard it. But it's a nostalgic feeling. Like if they hear a voice that's familiar, they'll always like it more than a voice that's unfamiliar, unless they really hate, that familiar voice. But like, I think, it's easy to undervalue the like incidental, minor interactions that your audience has with you. I understand this a lot more because I think about commercials a lot, like TV commercials, and how, they're just trying to get you to hear the word Pizza Hut, like as long as that phrase enters your mind, they've done their job, Everything else is just trying to get you to pay attention to them saying those words. Oh boy. I guess this live stream is only going to last another 15-20 minutes. And I'm going to start heading back towards the house and leaving the woods. So my phone doesn't stay in the woods. I didn't bring a charging brick because I don't have an easy portable one available to me. Now I feel bad and want to see you succeed. Well, don't feel bad. I'm doing well overall as a person. I might have fucked up certain aspects of my YouTube career, but I learned a lot in the process, and I believe in my ability to do better than ever before. But sometimes you have to shake the whole foundation. Like, imagine you build a building and it's a popular and beloved building, but then you find out there's a crack in the foundation, and you now need to take the entire building apart, replace the foundation, and build a new building. Will people still care about the new building the way they cared about the old one? Will something be different? Will that difference be noticeable? How long does it take to repair the foundation? Was the crack deeper into the earth and the foundation will never be actually stable? You have no idea until you find out. Philosophy with Trixie in the woods. Alright, who's gonna super chat me my next rant topic before my phone starts dying? We're still a good way. I have time to give you a full-fledged rant, but only one or two. Before I navigate myself out of here and turn off the stream for this evening. I'm probably gonna go home and make some kind of video for these 2 rap songs I've got. I've got an EP called Bitches That Wanna Mosh. It's 2 songs. The first one is Bitches That Wanna Mosh, and the second one is What's Going On? And I'm probably just gonna make like a lyric video and put it out, just so people can hear these songs. I actually made them like 2 years ago, but never released them. So it's like where the hell am I? I feel like I'm heading deeper into the woods and not out of the woods. Oh wait, maybe this leads me out. Yeah, this looks like a way out. I can't even imagine how confusing this must look from your perspective of like even I barely know where I am in these woods. I must look so lost, especially because you can't see the trail, so it just looks like I'm fucking like blasting through trees or something. I'm weird? Yes, Landon, I know I'm weird. Thanks. Or no, you're talking to somebody else who called you weird. Okay. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not following the chat. Oh no, my hat! What do you think of that? Gonna start to scatter. Got Top Dog by Magdalena Bay stuck in my head. I sing it, but I don't know the words. How goes it? It goes good. I'm on my way out of the woods, hoping to answer a couple more super chats for rant request super chats, if you will, as my phone enters its last 16% of battery life. Otherwise, chilling. It's very warm, but there's a nice cool breeze here in Norfolk. Honestly, if it wasn't so shaded in these woods, it would be too hot for me to be walking around doing this. Very much would not want to do this outside the woods today. Hey Trixie, hope you're having a great day. I am so far. All I've really done is wake up, clean my room, smoke some weed with my mom, and start live streaming in the woods about 90 minutes ago. And listened to some of my own music earlier because I'm planning to release some more today. Hey, Justice with another $5, thank you. I'm a folk singer and 12-string guitarist looking to add some rap verses to my songs for the sake of variety. What tips do you have for rap beginners? Oh man, well, for one thing, treat rapping like singing. Make sure you get deep breaths, and when you write your raps, so it's really hard to rap without sounding corny, and I'm not even gonna act like I don't sound corny when I rap. I'm white, I can't help it. I'm also a nerd, and I rap about nerdy shit. So you gotta embrace some level of cringe factor that's just gonna be there from the fact that you're trying to do it at all and you're not practiced in it. You know, like any other skill, it takes mastery. I've been rapping since I was a little kid, just, you know, rapping along to rap songs, so I have kind of a natural understanding of how flow and cadence works. But I mean, I think with rap you just have to think a little bit more about what words you're using than you do with regular lyric writing, where, you know, if you're writing something for melody, the melody can be almost anything, and you know, or rather I should say the lyrics can be almost anything as long as they match the melody, you know. And there is some thought put into like how do these words sound when sung, but with rap, like that's the entirety of it, is like how do these words sound in a row, what effect do they create. So for instance, a rap bar that Riley always quotes is like his like the bar that taught him how to rap is from the song Twins by Big Pun and Fat Joe, where he sings, "Dead in the middle of little Italy, little did we know that we riddled two middlemen who didn't do diddly." And so like the whole clear, you know, key there is just that DDL sound. Like how would it sound if I matched as many TTL and DDL noises together in one bar as I can, but it still makes sense as a full phrase. You know, dead in the middle of little Italy, little did we know that we riddled two middlemen who didn't do diddly. There's also the element of the slang. Diddly is obviously old slang, but like it is still like an improper word. So there's always some aspect of like torturing language to rap, at least for me. I feel like it is on some level an expression of like love and hate for words. But like, now I gotta think about some of my own best bars. I mean, my best songs always have a strong message. Like, I think your words are always gonna have more impact if you're saying something. You know, if every sentence kind of feels disconnected from the last and they're all just kind of cool sounding sentences on their own, it can work, but every sentence then has to be as good as every other sentence. Whereas if it's one continuous sentiment, then, you know, the parts that don't sound as cool lead up to the parts that do sound as cool. So you're creating that kind of sense of build-up. I can't get out of my head the bars I broke that I did earlier, the Tekken bars. Well, actually, I'll do a different. Well, I'm trying to think of better advice. I don't want to get like too technical because you're literally beginner level, but I don't know. Like, leave yourself room for breaths, and try to rhyme as many words as humanly possible and create as much like assonance and consonants as possible. You know, it's just about making the words sound good together. So I have a whole playlist called Rap Lessons. It's got like 70 songs in it that I've made for myself, but it is more like advanced rap lessons than it is like beginner rap lessons. But the theory behind it is that it's all songs that if you learn them, they will make you better at rapping. So hit me up on Twitter or something if you want that playlist, and I will get it to you. I'm sure I'll make a public post about it someday. But yeah, hopefully that's enough rap advice. I feel like it's hard to give advice on something as vague as how to be creative, but you know, have fun, I guess. June with $4.99. Thank you. Jordan Peterson talks about art as exploration of the outermost bounds of reality. What do you think of that idea? Where are we, or what art do we need? Interesting question. I think it's impossible to determine what is like necessary art. It's very much like, if you create stuff, there's a good chance that you create stuff for yourself as well as for other people. It's very rare that anybody never creates anything that like never gets seen by anybody else, whether that was the intent or not. You know, I think it always starts from a place of like a personal desire to make a thing happen. So in that sense, it springs out of like a sense of personal necessity of like, I need this thing. And then you kind of are wondering if other people also need this thing. To me, that relationship is almost intrinsic in what we call art. And I think I have a really hard time drawing lines when it comes to what I consider art. I look at like nature and I think, you know, oh, this is art sometimes. But a lot of people like to ascribe human intent or think that like art is a unique thing to human experience, but I think art is incidental. I just think it's a thing you do by happenstance, and it just is recognized when other people see it as apart from something they would do. But that can be so broad because like for instance, let's say like wood carving or something like that, right? Like there are people who can do that all over the place, and I know that because you can go to any fucking small town and find a place that's got a bunch of wood carved shit made locally that you could buy, you know? And like, what makes that art is just the fact that like people are buying it, people are treating it as art, but like there's no intrinsic value in that, you know? It's just something that that people look at and they go, I want that, and then they put a monetary amount on it. But like, what gets considered high art versus low art basically ends up being scarcity and recognizability. Like, you can have something like, say, Chris Chan, right? Whose style is totally unique. So there's scarcity there, but it's not recognizable as quality to most people. It's only recognizable as unique. And to some people, to some, that's inherently valuable. Just the fact that it's as unique as it is already gives it value. But that is less recognizable than something like a Picasso, where nobody feels they can replicate that, and people are impressed with it enough that, you know, it takes on way more value than a Chris Chan art, even though they're equally unique. You know, they're equally art. But, you know, I think art gets conflated a lot with status and the aspects of art that go beyond the creative. So, let me make sure I'm still answering your question here. Jordan Peterson about art is the outermost bounds of reality. I would say no. I think that art is all very much in bounds of reality. I think that its amount of recognizability depends on how far it feels from normal, you know? But I don't think anybody's art has ever been far enough away from anyone else's art to feel alien. Like, there's only so many techniques, there's only so many understandings. Some stuff looks alien at first glance, but when you understand the context it came from, you realize it's not nearly as strange as you thought, or the intent behind it is way more relatable than you thought. So I just don't think it's possible for art to capture the outer limits of reality. I think art is incredibly limited to not just reality, but how it's understood by people or by nature, how it's enacted. We'll say not even how it's understood, how it is enacted upon. Art is the product of interaction. Let's put it that way. All right, I got my battery's down to 8%, so if I don't get a super chat in the next 5 seconds, we're calling it here. I should have time to belt through one more rant before this has to end, but I'm getting my ass out of these goddamn lost woods. And I thank everybody for being here and participating. This has been a fun time. It's my first time doing a Wander the Woods stream, so, you know, there might be more of these to come in the future. I'm gonna go down the path that always gives me the most Dark Souls vibe. The most like, this is definitely where there would be some kind of trap, you know? Oh, and now Bird's on the way home, so perfect timing. Just as my stream is coming to an end, Bird is heading home, so we'll be able to hang out and do other cool shit. Not that hanging out with you guys isn't cool, because this has been cool. I don't know if I've ever wandered these woods quite so hard before. I'm pretty sure I've gone down a couple paths I hadn't been down, you know. Oh. I will find my way out of these woods. I swear. I think I see the light. I see the end of the tunnel. GT with 5 pounds says, just keep being you. Well, you know, if I could stop, I might, but sadly, I don't know how to stop. So I will do exactly as instructed. You know, I like that song by Sim, S-I-M, the opening theme of Shingeki no Bahamut Genesis, where he's like, all I wanna be is me. That's me. Wouldn't know how to be something else. Wouldn't want to be something else because then I wouldn't be me, so I wouldn't get to enjoy it. Like if you became somebody else, you would just see their life the way they see it. And that might suck. Like it might not feel as good to be them as it looks to be them, you know? I think being me hasn't always been that pleasant, but right now it's pretty good. So I'm not gonna stop doing it while I'm not gonna quit while the energy's there, you know. Gotta be on fire when you got the fire. If that makes any sense. Bird is the goat, says Landon. I highly agree. Big time agree. Bird Stork is art, also agree. I'm glad there's a lot of bird appreciation going on in chat right now. You know, maybe you're all too embarrassed to say it to his face when he's on camera. I understand that. You know, you're getting lost in those beautiful dreamboat eyes, that chiseled face. And you're like, fuck, I can't tell this guy that he's the coolest. But then as soon as he's gone, you're like, that guy was the fucking coolest, holy shit. Yeah, this did get weirdly existential. I know I tend to do that, but I really did not expect this to be a super introspective and existential stream today. But you know, I was out in the woods. I was out in the Lost Woods. It really did feel like being in the Zelda Lost Woods just now. Like, the area I was just exploring is probably like 1 or 2 square miles. It's not big. It's a tiny, tiny forest. But it's totally intersected with paths that all like figure eight around each other and spiral around. So it's very easy to just keep doing loops and like, you know, finding pathways you didn't find that lead to dead ends and stuff like that. So that's why I was in the forest for 100 minutes in spite of it being small. I'm actually, where I'm walking right now, when I started the stream, I was on a path that goes next to this road. So like the path goes all the way down this road into the woods and then starts circling around. But on my way out, I tend to take the road because I'm tired of fucking being in the woods. Tired of the heat and the bugs. Feeling that nice breeze on me now, that nice ocean breeze from the Atlantic. Big old Addy Lant. All right, I've only got 5% charge left. I'm really pushing it. I'm really pushing it, but people keep sending me super chats, and I don't want to stop streaming right before somebody hits send on that chat that they've been fucking preparing all stream, you know? They're like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it in before the buzzer, and I'm like, you can't, but you will. That's how you really make it in life. They're like, you can't, and you're like, but I did anyways. You know, yeah, exactly. Go past your limits, as Twice says. Break reality with your super chats. Hello, this is Microsoft. What is your password? Say it or I will ban you. My password is 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3. And I've got 4% on my phone. Break the bounds of reality with your super chats. Yes. You must super chat like Gurren Lagann. If you could see the size of the rims on the jackass piece of shit car that's blasting that music, you would laugh. I promise you would laugh. Get the charge brick. I'm not going to make it to the house in time. I also don't know if I don't think I have a portable charge brick at home. I would have bought one at Walmart when I got this phone holder yesterday, but they have all of them in a locked up case, and I did not feel like waiting around. And also I want to go to like a technology store at some point, but yeah, I could always just order them online, of course. Those are something you can probably very cheaply get good ones on Amazon. I knew it. I knew if I stayed in long enough, someone would get a super chat in right before my battery died. Just the Vista Graphics with £2 says, just to make you happy, also rent is too darn high. I highly, highly agree. Down here, it's only gonna get worse. Like where we live, Hampton Roads is it's definitely a growing area. More and more rich people are pouring into this area. So the property values are just going up. If we could afford to buy a place right now, that would be awesome for us, because it would mean our place was definitely going to be worth more, but unfortunately not in that position. So, you know, it's kind of like, oh, hopefully we can afford to live here before it gets expensive. I would hate to be a renter here, because that's only going to get worse. But there are cheap places to live out here in the United States. You just gotta be willing to, you know, live apart from everyone you know in a place that nobody goes to, like West Virginia or New Mexico or North Dakota. You can live much more cheaply in those places. And Virginia is already way cheaper than fucking California, you know, where my parents were living up until last year for like 4 or 5 years, and it just finally got to a point where they realized that not only was it too expensive that the rest of the family would ever move out there, but it might be too expensive to be worth living in. So they came back out here to the east, and now I'm here too. All right, I've got 3%, so I'm gonna end the stream so I still have enough battery to make it home without a dead phone. Just a short walk, but you know, I also don't want you like seeing my house and where it is necessarily. You can probably figure out where this park is, but, you know, whatever. A lot of neighborhoods around it. All right.